We finally got a little bit of news about the next Halo game, just a little bit. Something new coming to Fortnite, although it's a little bit of a taste of their past, as well as a new game of the era chosen in Japan. That plus, we're going to also be talking about Mortal Kombat here on today's episode of Game Center. Hello everyone, and again, welcome to Game Center here on Player One Esports. I am Scan, the man who is currently obsessed with trying to find the absolute optimal combos in Mortal Kombat 11. Actually, you know what? Let's just start there. Let's just start by talking about Mortal Kombat 11, a game that already has a ton of critical praise and critical success. It has already been called one of the best, if not the best entry in the series to date, which, considering that the series is over 25 years old now, that's some significantly high praise if you ask me. But there's a few places around the world you are not going to have the opportunity to ever play this game. So far, Ukraine, Indonesia, and Japan have all made the decision to ban the game in their countries. And there's a definite sprinkling of irony when it comes to announcing that a fighting game is banned in Japan. I mean, fighting games were born in Japan. They made that genre. So for a fighting game to be banned there, is the violence going too far? We're talking about a game that basically started the entire debate about violence in video games way back with the original two Mortal Kombat entries. You can find videos about them talking about the game in Congress and just how violent the games were back in the early 90s. Looking at the violence in the games now though, how realistic it is, how visceral it is, and we've already talked about that here on Game Center, you really do have to start raising the question, is the violence starting to go a little bit too far? It also has yet to be seen whether or not the game is going to be a commercial success, but spoiler alert, it's gonna be a commercial success. So the world is of course abuzz with the release of Avengers Endgame, arguably the most hotly anticipated movie of the past few years, if not ever. I mean, I think there's a video on the internet that you can find right now of someone sitting at an intersection in Los Angeles. They turn their phone all the way around and you can see 7 different billboards with Avengers Endgame on them. There hasn't been anything this hyped since last 10 days ago when Game of Thrones started, maybe. Anyways, the reason I'm talking about Avengers Endgame is actually because we're talking about Fortnite. There was just another tie-in to Marvel released in Fortnite, this time with the focus on Avengers Endgame. You may remember some time back that there was a tie-in with Fortnite that featured the Infinity Gauntlet, and now there's a tie-in with Avengers Endgame where so far we have seen images of Captain America's shield. Clearly there's a very strong partnership between these two behemoth franchises, and it should be fun and interesting to see how this event works out. Halo Infinite, one of the most highly anticipated games coming out on the horizon. And that horizon might be really far off because we don't really know how far in the future that game is going to be released because there's no release date yet. But again, nonetheless, an extremely highly anticipated game finally had a bit of a juicy bit of news drop about it this week. And rather than a confirmation, it's actually a debunking. The lead writer of the game has confirmed that the game will not launch with a Battle Royale mode, which a lot of people thought would be a shoo-in considering the absolute madness and absolute just frenzy around everything Battle Royale right now in the gaming world. I mean, just look at how Apex Legends is doing right now. People thought it would be a shoo-in, but Forge Mode, the make-your-own level editor that has been a staple of the Halo franchise over the past few entries, has been confirmed as being in the game. Because the lead writer said, hey, guess what? Battle Royale might not be in there naturally, but you can jump into Forge Mode and possibly create your own. The key word here to me is at launch, because that doesn't mean that there may not be a Battle Royale mode in the future of Halo Infinite, kind of similar to what Battlefield 5 has done, but at launch, it feels that the game is going to focus at its core multiplayer and, of course, on the ever-growing and ever-complicated story mode campaign of the Halo franchise. Again, no release date yet. Maybe we'll hear something about it at E3, but at least it's good to know some sort of news about the game after what felt like an absolute eternity hearing absolutely nothing about it. Famitsu Magazine, one of the most legendary gaming publications in the world, specifically it's based out of Japan, just so you know, recently held a poll in its magazine as to what their favorite game of the era was. So what exactly do I mean by era? Well, in Japan, the reign of each emperor is defined as an era, and right now, or at least in the near future, the emperor will be stepping down from the throne, which means the current era is ending. After the votes were all tallied up, believe it or not, a game from 1996 took the #1 vote. Chrono Trigger, the absolute classic JRPG from 1996 on the Super Nintendo. And it is doubtlessly one of the greatest video games of all time. But to think that it's still held up in such high esteem, to be a game that is the better part of 25 years old, but still stands head and shoulders above the rest of games in Japan in the public eye, it really says something about the quality of the game. Second place went to the universally praised The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, while third place went to the somewhat undersung but still absolutely gorgeous to both view and play Nier Automata. Again, Chrono Trigger, it's a masterpiece, and at first it's shocking, but then you think about it, and it really is possibly the greatest game of the last 30 years.
The Elite Series regular season draws to a close with Supernova facing off against Radiance at 8 p.m. on Wednesday, May 1st. Thursday, May 2nd will be our semi-final matchups, also taking place at 8 p.m. Join us on Friday, May 3rd for Danger Space, Call of Duty's 5v5 Call of Duty Black Ops 4 event. This will be a PC-only event, which you can again find here at Player One Esports. And of course, on Sunday at 2 p.m. May 5th, you'll be able to find our PUBG Duo Domination event.
Thank you again, everybody, for joining us here on Game Center. If you want to know more about what's going on here in the Player One universe, you can find everything from our upcoming events to all of our social media platforms at playeroneesports.com. But for Player One Esports and for Game Center, I have been Scan. Thank you for joining us again this week. Game on, everybody.